delighted to welcome Elisa, the founder and CEO of N Robotics, who are really focusing on transforming the ways in which we collect data and using cutting-edge mobile devices to do so. So please, without further ado, Elisa, please welcome to the stage. Thank you.
So, yeah, just everyone come in, make yourself comfortable. I'm really, really honored to be here today. Actually, I visited the conference a few years ago as a student, and got a sponsorship to be able to listen all to these amazing talks. And right now, I'm standing here. So that's a really, really cool thing for me. So thank you for listening, and also take the time to listen what I have to say. So my topic is Embodied AI, and I spoke to some of the people here today and asked them if they plan to come to this talk, and everybody was like, okay, I don't really understand what means Embodied AI. So I think that's something I will start with. Embodied AI, my background is AI research. I combined philosophy with informatics and neuroscience to think about what AI actually means from a technical standpoint, but also from a societal standpoint. So at one point, I was like, okay, I don't want to write about it anymore, to talk about it anymore, but actually apply it, actually do something that can help us. And I think technology is the biggest possibility of actually changing something. So the first slide is, of course, okay, how can robots or embodied AI can actually help us solve the big challenges that we have, like climate change, healthcare, where everyone got this in the last month, environmental disasters. So we get many, many customers asking us, okay, we have a problem, and we want to train amazing models. We have cool software, but we don't have the hardware to collect it. It's sometimes too expensive. It's too dangerous for people to collect high quality data or in high volumes. So that's what we do. We put mobile robots into application, and that's the application we thought of the first. It makes sense. It's used in different kind of verticals like construction or energy. So what is Embodied AI? Here's a brief history. So I actually talked with one of my colleagues. She's doing a PhD in economics, and she was researching the effects robots have on the workers' market at the moment. And she compared it a little bit with the Industrial Revolution. And when you think of it, that our whole everything what we have currently in our economy is based on Industry Revolution, that people are able to be more effective, that we are able to produce more with less efforts. So and so the machine was invented. Actually, robots, from the words, is actually a Czech word for work. So it's actually a machine that performs work. And what combines when you combine robots with AI is going to be embodied AI. So what does it mean? Someone asked me, is a speaker with an AI tool also embodied AI? I was like, no, it has to interact in the real world. And that's also where all the potential comes in, but also the risks. When you have an entity that autonomously moves in our society, that is able to collect any kind of data, and not really many people are noticing it, we are speaking about the AI Act, but I think that the robotics sector is not so much spoken about yet. So yeah, that's what I just spoke about. Why does it matter? Why do we need embodied AI? And so this leads to better adaptable and context-aware systems. My CTO said when I created this presentation, it helps identify the alignment problem, right? So you can test your software much more early in the process and really make sure that it does what it has to do, instead of just training the models more and more and not really knowing what's the end result. But also when it comes to sensitive applications like healthcare and elderly care, we think like this kind of human-like interaction possibilities can really help in this kind of areas. Ethical consideration, that's of course one of my favorite topics. I also already mentioned safety and security levels. That's something we, for example, are in constant talk with the TÜV, the regulating organization here in Germany, to talk about what kind of regulations can we think of when it comes to robots. But also transparency, explainability, like why does the robot what it does. And it scares many people, like our office is in a pretty public space, so everyone can come by, and when people go by who are like workers, and they are really afraid that it takes their jobs. And when I talk to CEOs of big companies, they say, okay, of course, the half of the people we have in production right now, we're not going to have them in 5 or 10 years. So we now have to make sure that the development of robots and robotic systems and applications is inclusive and also takes care of these kinds of people. To also design to maximize the benefits. Of course, everyone thinks of robots in the army or in war. And of course, autonomous weapon systems are really, really scary. So we all have to make sure that this doesn't happen. But also considering the long-term societal impact, I actually was bringing one of our robots to a school and showing them what it can do. And in the end, I was thinking that everyone is interested in the robot. But actually, all the students have been interested in philosophical questions. What will it make with our society to have robots? And that's something I was really fascinated about, that the next generation cares about that so much. And in the business world right now, I don't really see that kind of interest. And I think that we have to have some kind of moral status for robots, not because they may have feelings or may have consciousness, no, but because it will change the way we interact with each other. When, for example, we are violent against robots, how do we then treat people around us, especially when it comes to education and children? So where will we be? And actually, at the speaker's talk yesterday was like, okay, you know where we will be in 10, 20 years. Of course, I don't. But we clearly see a way here. So AI will be even bigger. And I totally agree with this whole AI Act consideration that we have to regulate it. But I believe we have to regulate it in size. And of course, what kind of companies are there doing that? But it will be a more general, versatile system. But in the long term, we're going to see what we see right now with Neuralink, the combination of humans, AI, and robots in the long term. And everyone has to think about, for personally, where they want to stand, and if they want to be part of their journey, or they want to be part of the regulation, for example. So, that's also the transforming the way we live and work, and that's actually a short-term impact. And that's why I actually got into robotics, because for me, it's actually an enabler for a self-determining life. You can, for example, I have a cleaning robot at home, I have a morning robot at home. It really enables me to have a life whatever I want to have without sacrificing, for example, a clean home. And it's so weird, but for me it really means a lot having this kind of machines, also washing machine, a computer, everything that enables us now. We have to think what will enable our children and what kind of products this will be. And so we made sure to have a European female-led company to try to transform this industry long term. So what we can do to ensure everything goes well, I think the thing I'm talking about the most is investing, also from a governmental perspective, but also from a private perspective. As a female founder, it can be sometimes difficult to raise money. That's just the truth when you go to the statistics. But I think we have to make sure that we keep innovation here in Germany and also help creating innovation here in Germany. And I think we're still lacking that, so I'm really happy to meet so many different stakeholders here and challenging them, and also together see what we can do to ensure that. Legal framework, of course. And now a little bit to my company, so what we do. We are a full-stack robotics, mobile robotics company. We are creating, developing, and manufacturing mobile robots from a hardware, software, electronics, mechanics standpoints, and ensuring that we are have the power of the full ecosystem, from the tiniest component to the whole system solution in the end, really ensures that we know what the customer is doing with it, that we know how he approaches this kind of technology, and we can also ensure application. I kind of compared that with AI 10 years ago. So everyone was like, oh, cool, there's now this technology out there, what we should do with it. I want to try to use it, but I don't see a clear application in my company. And that's a little bit the same thing with robots. We get calls from different kind of companies saying, okay, we got a robot, it makes sense for marketing, we got great pictures, but it doesn't really solve a problem. But at first you have to make sure that the customer understands what is the problem. For example, when it comes to data collection, when it comes to ensuring the safety of workers, doing difficult or very dangerous tasks, as well as just to make sure that they really understand what they want to have, as well as being able to access it. And that's also a different point, right? The robotics market is pretty, there are not that many out there. I think pretty big ones who have been around the last decades. There's not much innovation around, and there's so much space for companies going in, but also bigger companies investing in robotics and AI to ensure they're ahead of time and they're not missing the next big trend that is coming up here for us. And I think, especially, as I said, the combination of AI and robotics really will be the next trend. So that's a little bit of the robots. I blurred out the one. It's going to be launching in 2 months, our Biped robot. It's got us quite excited because everyone's talking about humanoid robots and what you can do with them. And that's still the application problem. So right now, our vision to really go into different applications to then see what does the world really need and what is this nice to have. For example, the German Red Cross approached us and said, okay, it would be really great to have something for disaster control. When, for example, earthquakes happens, we can search for survivors, and that's really something close to my heart, enabling these kinds of things through technology. We have a quadruped robot, and what's the biggest thing about our company is that our software and hardware is completely open. And I think that's part of our new generation saying, okay, technology, no one cares about what kind of technology you have when it's not accessible. And not accessible to our Mittelstand companies, it's not accessible to our universities, research, everyone working with it. And we can only put really use to robotics when we ensure accessibility. Our values, responsible entrepreneurship, diversity, and our kind of bubble is normal, but when I talk to big corporates, that's not the normality, and I think that's quite sad, but I think it's great that we are changing that right now. I'm not having full time yet, but I'm really curious about any discussion, questions, also critique, feedback. I'm happy to hear anything from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisa. And I think we have our very first question here, the gentleman in the stripy shirt.
Hey, thank you. It's great to see the topic at the conference, because I think this is certainly one of the big areas which has been around for decades, you know. And I was just interested, maybe 2 things. Like, one is there's so much research done, Rodney Brooks and these guys, right? And the philosophical question of real AI cannot actually emerge without having a body. These would have been great topics to also bring up, I think. Because I think it's one of the big things that we will see in the next 5 to 10 years, right? So would be interesting to hear more about it, if you have insights or like your opinion about that. Because as you may remember or know, in the 80s, 90s it was a huge topic, right? With subsumption architectures and so on. And the second one is, of course, there's a lot of companies that are using robotics already, right? And real AI, particularly in the healthcare sector, like I'm thinking of 1X in Norway, or Catalia Health in California with Corey Kidd, and Furhead Robotics in Sweden. So there's a lot of beautiful companies that are using it, right? So I think it's one of those major puzzle pieces that in the next maybe 5 to 10 years will bring another wave of change. And maybe a last comment, you made these projections of maybe 200 years, but I'm actually a bit more I'm thinking we can have these types of robots. When I now see 1X, for example, in Norway, these robots look very close to, you know, something quite tangible, and you now enter ChatGPT and these new technologies into it. It will be interesting to see how they evolve in the next 5 to 10 years, actually. So I will just now with a couple of points you may want to comment on those.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate any input. So yeah, maybe I will start with the last question. Yeah, there are many robotics companies out there, and what we have seen is a real problem. I think what's crucial now about our product is autonomy. It doesn't, for example, we got a spot here today, I think most of you saw it, from a different kind of company, and it requires someone, a colleague of mine, having a tablet to actually say what it has to do. And I think that doesn't really bring any value, and it's the same thing with drones. We really have to ensure that the system is safe enough, reliable enough, powerful enough, but also careful enough when it sees, for example, people or animals or whatever, to operate autonomously. And that's why the customers come to us. They say, okay, there are robots out there, but they do not work in the way. Point one, they do not work in the way we want it to work, reliable, for example. And the second thing is also, we don't want to have a system that's complicated. For example, the Boss Dynamic Spot we brought today, it's really heavy to carry around. You have to change the whole body to change the battery, and having this power over the ecosystem to really say, okay, we're going to have a battery system that's going to be changed autonomously by the robot. And I think that's going to make the difference, and that's going to long-term determine what kind of robotics company going to be successful and who not. And the third thing is, I think also when we're talking about other companies, I think like, for example, Elon Musk that do really well is production, scaling production. And hardware, that's a really big challenge, and that's something we approach from day one to ensure that everything can be produced really, really quickly. And right now, when you try to buy a robot, one of those, you said they're either not available or you can wait 1 or 2 years. And that's not how you innovate, is my opinion. But of course, all of these are really, really great robots. And it's a different kind of saying, okay, we want to have humanoid robots. What I'm really not too convinced about, that we need human-like kind of robots, because I don't really think that's the best shape mechanically. So we are starting with biped robots, so it's going to be like 2 legs without a body, actually. It's making the same job, but it's much more easy technically, and also, from a price standpoint. Of course, we can have still the best robots, cost like 500K or whatever, but then when no one can buy it, what does it make any sense? So, and the other thing, the other question, there's really, really great research out there. Of course, like in the 80s, I wasn't born yet. But yeah, we're working with different kind of universities at the moment, and the most of them say, we have great PhDs, we have great software, but we have no hardware to actually test what we have done. And that's so sad. So we really try to keep our software and hardware so open that everyone can work with it. Even our bipedal robot will be complete open source to give back to the community, because these are the kinds of people that will actually realize all these visions we have today. It's not going to be big companies probably, but the community of really smart people. And but they don't. It's like the Raspberry Pi, right? It was a revolution that everyone now could code on hardware that's accessible. And I think that same kind of revolution has to happen in robotics, and not like fancy kind of robots that are in marketing videos.
Do you think we could lead in this area in Germany, like globally?
Yeah, I hope so. That's like, of course, our plan to build a really cool, good company, and we have customers, we have revenue, we have a really great team, that some of the people are here today already, really passionate working about it. But I think the environment is quite tough building that here. For example, for me as a first-time founder, dealing with all the tax, with working safety, and now with EU Act, AI Act, it's really tough, and no one is really helping you, but only throwing stones in front of you all the time. And I still believe I wanted to build here because I was born here, I lived here, I want to give back to the society that help me to raise me, kind of. It's kind of my thought. But yeah, we're going to see. I heard that some kind of companies taking their IP outside of Europe to ensure that's better handleable for them, the compliance part. Maybe we have to do that in the future, but right now I'm still really hoping for funding in Germany. We're with many VCs in talks right now, but especially like from the governmental side. I see a big gap in funding in the way men present, females present, in the way deep tech companies are perceived when you're not the B2B SaaS model that's normally funded. And I think that's sad that people don't really want to take risks. And I think Germany has to want to take risks, and then we can succeed and be a leader in that area.
Well, it's interesting because I was sitting there thinking about why has robotics not had that, should we say, speed of adoption as we're seeing with AI in the first and second and third wave. And I wonder whether it's because this construct of buy or build as a corporation, if you think about, wow, I believe Germany should be the people that can build it. We have some of the best engineering and mechanical talent in the world. And so arguably the hardware should be actually relatively simple for us to produce. And so I wonder whether it's because of this mindset that actually, is it too expensive to bother to build? Or is it that actually the buy-in solution isn't quite there yet? Like, where's that missing catalyst that we need in the robotics sector to get it to be used by the corporates? Because the use cases are evident, but the actual manifestation of that hasn't quite tipped. Yeah. And maybe what is that tipping point that we're looking for?
It's quite interesting. I spoke to one like German Mittelstand company who's also investing in kind of innovative companies, they call it. And I was like, yeah, we have got those robots, it's really cool. And they were like, yeah, robots, we believe it's going to be relevant in 10 years. And you're like, okay, that's people told already also about AI. And then it was there and everyone's talking about. So I think some of these kind of first movers are missing, saying, okay, we are taking the risk. But also, everyone's saying hardware is hard. I think the perception that it's really difficult and really pricey is still there, even though I don't understand how big software companies can spend a lot of money on the same product all over again. And I think we got self-funded, bootstrapped so far. We got 10 different products, a good revenue stream. So for us, it wasn't hard. But yeah, I think more people just have to let go of that perception.
That's refreshing to hear. Are there any other questions or discussion items? Yes, please do. We're clearly an enthusiast.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking, I mean, my prediction would be, I'm happy to hear your comment, that the robotics AI component in these waves of AI that will come in is likely going to come from Asia, Japan, maybe China. And I believe one of the reasons is that there is less of a distance, like there is in Europe in general, in Germany in particular, a bit of a fear, because that's a manifestation of an AI that you can actually see, whether it's a quadruple-legged robot or a bipedal robot. I mean, essentially, this is like the manifestation of what some people fear already today, right? So that makes it overall hard. But otherwise, if you were to overcome that and possibly also regulation, I agree with you. This is one of the strengths that Germany and Europe has, which is manufacturing, right? We manufacture a whole lot of cars and trucks and Husqvarna has chainsaws, you name it, right? So we're good at that. We should be able to build that. And I'm absolutely convinced that this will be one of at least 4 or 5 big waves, just as we see now. And it's just amazing that we basically just focus on the heat now, which is ChatGPT. The whole world is very excited. But I give it another few years. And then we have things like distributed AI, which is an area that I worked in for a long time, embodied AI. And causal AI, which is another big area. So all these things will come, and we basically right now, even at this conference, if I may say, there is a very low focus and possible awareness of these areas, and I guarantee they will come in over the next 10 years. So maybe a further comment on that. But the guess as to where in the world it will come from is an interesting one, I think.
Yeah, Asia, of course, like you can, I think like just from a price point perspective, you can buy a Boston Dynamics spot for 130K at the moment. a quadruped robot from Asia, from Unitree, is I think is 3,000 euros.
Wow.
It's like, that's like, we have been shocked. We have been quite happy that we haven't put a quadruped robot out there for like, as a business case, because we actually saw that coming. And of course, you saw that scary videos that you had, this kind of robots going around in Corona time, shouting at people, you're not allowed to be outside, right? It's also, it's scary, but also very interesting at the same time. But of course, I think especially in robotics and also AI, the security is really important, like the security of your data and also, yeah, the whole regulation. And there's like China, of course, not the company or the area to go. And that's a really great benefit of us producing here in Europe and especially Germany, to be able to address these concerns in a really early level and implement them in our development. What I think will be long-term a benefit. Short-term, of course, they're gonna, with everything, they have a higher speed of developing things, putting them into the market. But I think long-term we can still succeed. And of course, Japan is really strong with robots. A long time they had robot dogs when I was little. I saw that in television. So yeah, I think the society and how the perception of robots and the openness to innovation is really, really different. And I think when we a little bit adapt to that in Germany, we can have also a big chance. As you said, there's a lot of talent here, and we should be able to do that. But as you said, like in AI conferences, there's a little representation of these kind of topics. I'm really happy to really hear. But of course, I'm now asked to speak about AI, what I really wanted to do 10 years ago when no one cares about that. And everyone wants now to me speak about AI, and I'm like, yeah, I can do that, but I really want to speak about robots. I'm somehow not always on a trend. Yeah, but I'm trying to just sensibilize the people for this kind of connection. And as you said, there are many kind of trends in this area. And to be really, to be prepared for that and also be part of that. Because ChatGPT is now really interesting, but maybe next year what's going to be next year.
Fantastic. Well, that's brought us straight on time. So thank you very much for the wonderful discussion. Elisa, thank you very much for your presentation. So that wraps up our session.